Chris Powell, welcome back to the podcast.
Yo, thank you, brother. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, man. And I wanted to bring you back on because The Biggest Loser documentary is going viral. A lot of people are talking about it, a lot of negative attention. You got people saying this, you got people saying that about it. And I couldn't think of a better person to talk to about it. Somebody, you've trained people for a long time. You had your own reality TV weight loss show on ABC where you were one of the trainers. And you've just evolved over time as a human where you've seen what actually works when it comes to real transformation. I know you weren't involved with The Biggest Loser necessarily, but given what you know about it and the documentary that's kind of exploiting the negativity of it, why do you think so many people are upset?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, of course they're upset. I think. Well, boy, this is a big question here. First of all, you see after 17 seasons on The Biggest Loser, and especially those first seasons where it really started to make a splash, the way that the individuals were treated. First of all, that is it gets your attention and it's eye opening. And I think anyone who's in has a bit of heart or compassion can look at that and just you feel awkward, and you feel for the people that are going through that experience because of the way that they're being spoken to and the way that they're being treated. And then, of course, now after the fact, personally, I think that of course, the upset comes from when they look under the hood and they say, oh, they were starving them. They're consuming 800 calories and they're running these people into the ground with, reckless abandon for their health. I think it throws fuel on what they saw on the front end, which is also the way that they saw these individuals being treated. So they're being treated poorly in front of the cameras, and now it's being exposed that they're being treated horribly behind the cameras as well. And so, and then, you see some of the long-term damage done, and then you hear the stories from the individuals who have gone through it. And so, yeah, I think it does elicit, a lot of questions and upset from a lot of people.
Yeah, it was definitely cringe to watch, and I watched the show back in the day because I would have personal training clients who were like, oh, like I'm watching The Biggest Loser. Like, what do you think of it? So I would watch it to like educate myself and be like, all right, where are my clients getting this information from? This type of health information. And I knew back then, it wasn't necessarily like the best idea for weight loss, but I also knew like, oh, this is just entertainment. And as unfortunate as it is, like, people are going to watch this, and I hope that they know this isn't real life. I didn't know the whole ins and outs of it until I saw the documentary completely. I think what gets me is that it seemed to me after watching the documentary that the producers like preyed on the vulnerability of these people. Like they were looking for a certain type of person to be a contestant, and they gave them these thick contracts to look over, and they were told, and then they were told to like sign them as fast as possible. And they were like, well, I want a lawyer to look through this. And they were like, well, we already have contestants ready to sign, and just kind of manipulating them, it seemed like, to get them onto the show. And then like they kind of knew that what they were doing wasn't like the healthiest thing to do. And yet they exploited them anyway. And they caught these people at a time where they were just feeling, I mean, you know how it is when people are coming to you as a trainer, like feeling like emotionally bankrupt, broken, hopeless, put them on a show, and then essentially starve them, make them work out for, 8 hours a day or whatever it was, or to burn 6,000 calories a day, whatever the minimum was. And then you throw them on a scale in front of a bunch of people, which I get this was for the entertainment purpose, but then to shame them if they didn't lose a certain amount of weight. And I just think that kind of gets into like what's, in my opinion, wrong with how we view fitness now. Is it's like this negative lens of I need to work out to punish myself. I need to work out because I'm a bad person. And I think that just magnified that to a whole nother level. I mean, you were on a show, I didn't watch the Extreme Weight Loss, but it was a reality TV show. Like knowing what you know about that world, like can the trainers like coach the clients on like what they can actually do throughout the program, or is like the network being like, okay, we need these people to only eat a certain amount of calories, they have to work out for this? Like, does the trainer have any kind of say?
I can see, and I can actually I can say that I never actually made it through a full episode of Biggest Loser. And so I've only seen clips here and there. I always stayed in my own lane. And so in my experience and what I had with ABC, which was a beautiful relationship, they gave me and the nutritionists and the registered dietitians and the psychologists, they gave us autonomy to control our own environment. And now our promise to them is that we will have these people transform. They are going to lose the weight. And so, and we can do that. But also, when Biggest Loser, and this is, I'm thankful to the Biggest Loser in the fact that they brought a lot of awareness to the weight loss space, and that it provided an opportunity for us to create a show on ABC that was the complete opposite of what the Biggest Loser was, which was, a 3-month race to lose as much weight. And when we came in to create our show, it was, okay, well, we can't do it in 3 months. And for what it's worth, ABC asked if I could do it in 6. And I said, I can't. I need a year. And they said, well, the longest show we've ever had in production is 6 months. I said, I still can't do it. If you want us to genuinely help these people try to implement lifestyle changes and really do this the right way, I need 2 years, but I'll do my best to get it done in a year. And they gave it to us. Like that shows how far they were willing to go to do something different. And so like, I just want to, that I was blessed with some amazing network execs who understood that. And they were, and also to tell a story about an individual's journey through transformation rather than a competition between other people. And so that was my experience. Now, of course there's pressure, especially in the first season, to produce results, because if you can't produce results, there's not going to be a season 2 or a season 3. And so like you're under a very, we're under a big microscope to deliver exactly what our promise is, because they're investing a lot into it. So while that was what they're looking for, is that transformation, ours was a docu-series, not a competition. It wasn't a game show. And so we could tell a lot more of just the real story behind it without that added pressure, and without the pressure of people in competition with each other, and without the pressure from the network saying these people have to lose, 200 pounds in 3 months. So I didn't feel, and I don't know what they went through over on their side. But nevertheless, networks are a business, and they get that business off of driving eyeballs and drama and sensational moments. That's what gets people to watch. And then that's how the business works. Again, but that's like also where again, admittedly, I haven't even seen the documentary for the Biggest Loser. Life has been so busy, but I almost don't even want to, because I'm so glad I stayed in my own lane before. And I almost want to just continue in my lane. Because I hear about it and I just think, thank God we had the network execs that we did, that were cool about it. And by the way, even after season 1, they trusted. And the vibe there was a lot of pressure in season 1, and then the vibe was just so awesome for 2, 3, 4, and 5 for us. So it was it was a different experience, but nevertheless, like you have to deliver results.
Yeah, and I think that what really got people from the documentary was just how cruel the trainers were to the contestants, like when they didn't lose weight, or like if you're not throwing up, you're not working hard enough, or it was something like that, where they had these people just like running on the treadmill for, it seemed like forever. You had the one woman who got like taken out in a helicopter to the ER, and then you had people that just regained all of the weight all over again, and now they're in the exact same spot with all this added trauma and physical pain. And there was certain things, I think, that some of the people were like rewatching some of the clips, and they were kind of like even cringing at. Like the one thing was the temptation room, where they had all this like junk food in a room, and I think that it was essentially like whoever ate the most could see their family. It was something really like terrible, that I was like, man, like that is so messed up. Um and I know that you have to have ratings, you have to sell the show. Like I said, I knew back in the day it was for entertainment, and I'm glad that it brought some level of awareness to weight loss, even though I don't agree at all with how it was done. But it was really, that was like one of the most painful moments for me to watch, because it's like these people are in such dire straits. Is what do you think about that specifically as it comes to weight loss and like how people can do better?
Oh yeah. I just heard about the whole temptation room thing last week, as you know, in many of these conversations that people are having about the documentary, and like in my close group, they were actually telling me about it, and my jaw was on the floor. I was just thinking, again, like you, look, no, and living in that world for 5 years. Okay, I get the sensational side of it, and I get the TV side of it, and it makes everyone on the other end of it kind of just cringe, and you just feel for them. But on the flip side of that, just the humanity side, I think it's wrong. I'll just come out on record and say I believe that's very wrong. I think it was cruel. I think it was manipulative. I just think it it definitely exploits. Obviously, it exploits the position that these individuals are in, and again, I think it exacerbates the entire situation. So yeah, it was and after the fact, now that everything's being exposed, obviously, people are upset about it, and I think they have every right to be. Again, I'm so glad that like you have no idea. I'm watching that just thinking, oh, holy smokes. But we actually said it because remember that was the only other show that was on TV at the time, and we said we want to do it completely opposite from this. And so that's what we set out to do, was just tell the story, and just follow one individual, and also but follow the emotional and mental journey through the process. Now you also mentioned just the cruelty from the trainers. Again, I've seen clips, and they are shocking, but then I also ask myself, knowing how production works, how much and what they were actually like off camera. And so I don't know in the documentary if the individuals speak much about the way that they were treated off camera by the trainers. I know on camera, again, especially back in that day, it was like the tougher you are, the more people felt like you were doing your job as a trainer. And I definitely felt pressure, even from some side conversations of, you got to be tougher on the peeps. You got to come down on them, and you got to, drop the hammer on them. But if anyone's ever seen my show, you can see that I don't have it in me. I'll try to turn it on, and I'll try to be tough, but it can only last for a couple minutes. But then the real question is, what do they like off camera? And that's what I want to know from the people who actually went through that.
Yeah, that was like, I guess, like if you talk to people and they had like an opposing argument to the documentary, the biggest thing that I've heard is, well, the contestants chose to like participate in this. Like they wanted to participate to win the money or to get on TV or whatever. And my response is, well, like let's just say that they did. Like, I mean, according to the documentary, they were like forced to sign these contracts pretty quickly. And, I don't think anyone goes into a show like that and predicts. I think everybody like just assumes people are good humans and compassionate, and you're not going to be exploited and taken advantage of in the way that these people do. I mean, do you think that the contestants knew what they were getting themselves into, or do you think that contestants, because of the position they're in and because of how desperate they can be to lose the weight, they're a bit blindsided?
I think season one had no idea. I think season two, season three, season four, I'm sure they watched, and I'm sure they also had, their people signing up for the show, or as far as the casting calls, they just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and so I think I'm sure they had an idea of what they were getting into. However, as far as the rush into the contracts and stuff like that, um, you know, anyone who's done and unfortunately, a lot of these people have never done business before, and they don't understand, like, there's a business tactic to rush into a contract, and so you sign these things, and they are big, thick contracts, and and speaking to that, it's something I don't think anyone should ever rush into any contract, whether it's 2 pages or whether it's 80 pages. But if it's 80 pages, you better lawyer up, and you at least have someone take a look at that, because you never know what's in the writing there. So that it's kind of hard to speak to. But I do feel more than anything, and even for season one of my show, we were all noobs in this thing, and so we were all kind of trying to feel out a world together, because I was a trainer from Phoenix, Arizona, and so I had never spent any time like really in deep in the Hollywood world or anything like that. So I didn't understand like the real ins and outs of production. But on the flip side, as far as people that were doing Biggest Loser for the first season, I'm sure they were shocked. I'm sure they were. And then of course, you know, I don't know what it was like on the backside of the cameras, but for 2, 3, 4, and 5, and however many other seasons, I'm sure they had an idea for what they were getting themselves into. And you said it. You said yourself. There are some individuals that are genuinely they just want to lose the weight. They just want to change their life. And there are some individuals that just really want to be on TV. And we, even in our casting, we had to try to decipher between the two. Now, I maybe on a show like Biggest Loser, because it's sensational and it's fast and it's a show, it's great to cast people who really want to be on TV because they're willing to do just about anything. I mean, look at people that are doing these YouTube videos, jumping off buildings, and doing crazy stuff and hurting themselves. They're doing it for views. And I wonder if it's a similar kind of mentality. But then you also have individuals who just really, they're desperate to lose the weight. And we had to cast those individuals because I'll tell you the difference between the two. That show ran 3 months and our show ran a year. And if someone ever kind of sold us on the fact they really wanted to lose weight, but they genuinely just really wanted to be on a TV show, after about a month of the process, they're over it. And they're like, wait, you mean I got 11 more months of this? And you're like, well, yeah, we're transforming your life. Like this is like, yeah. And you're going to go home and there's going to be lifestyle changes. And like, you got to like, this is a full year. So we had to cast people that genuinely wanted to change their lives. They really needed to lose the weight and not be on a TV show. Because the people, if they just wanted to be on a TV show, is really fast and it was really sensational, but then there was no compliance. And if there's no compliance, then we can't create an incredible documentary in a year, you know? And yeah, so there's again, the difference between the two formats.
Yeah, and I guess you had said like the Biggest Loser gave you the blueprint for what not to do. Like, what specifically about the format of that show did you not like that you thought was just could be potentially harmful to people wanting to lose weight?
Yeah, it was the speed and the competition. And even when we first sat down to do it, because the production company found me from a documentary, from a journey that I took. Basically, my best friend, we lived together for like 2 years and he was 650 pounds. And over 2 years, I helped him lose 400 pounds. And he became certified to be a trainer, changed his life, got all these surgeries. And they were moved by the story of our friendship and of everything that happened. And so when they came in, and the opportunity came about because Biggest Loser was such a huge hit on NBC, and so other networks were interested in getting into transformation. But NBC, they were, again, it was 3 months and it was competition and it was brutal, and so that wasn't my style. So when they reached out to me and they said, we want you to come in and just show us how you do what you do, and lay out what it would look like to take a person on a journey of transformation. And at first I came in and said 2 years, because that's what I knew. That's what I did. It was 2 years. I literally did 2-year transformations. And they're like, no, that's not going to work. They said, can you do it in 3 months? I said, no, that's not going to work. I said, a year. They said, 6 months. Can you do it in 6 months? And I was like, I can't do it in 6 months. I can't do it. I said, a year is absolute minimum, and that's pushing it. And they're like, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen. And then we brought it to ABC, and I had a great talk with the execs over there, and they said, yeah, you need a year, take a year. I said, awesome. So again, it was the awareness that Biggest Loser had. Again, I'm not saying it was good, but they created awareness that provided an opportunity for us to tell a story for individuals going through the journey. And we tried to show what it could really be like, for people at home who were doing it, and not in a competition setting and not trying to do it in 3 months, So we tried to keep it real, but there's still plenty of production. There was still plenty of storytelling. There was still plenty of drama and all of that. And some of it was, and the producers are there to stir that up. And it was a difficult part for me, because my job was to help them transform, to really help them lose the weight. but at the same time, they had to create, moments for TV around it.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of get upset that people will prey on the vulnerability of these people who need to change. You've seen this with like addiction shows. You've seen this, mental health. You see this with like romantic stuff. You've seeing it with weight loss. And again, like I think you're right. Like bringing awareness to weight loss and fat loss and exercise is incredibly important. Like we're still in this obesity epidemic right now. And I'm glad for the sake of it got people to think about weight loss that The Biggest Loser happened because people were interested in it, right? Like I don't think people watched it because they wanted to laugh at people on the show. I think people watched it because they were like, like maybe I need to do something. I'm passionate about health and fitness. Let me just learn some things. And obviously the prescription for what to do was completely wrong on the show. And I think that you just see people who have like, again, regained all the weight, blah, blah, blah. Like, as somebody who has helped people transform their lives and lose hundreds upon hundreds of pounds, what do you think actually works as far as somebody who wants to lose 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds? This episode is brought to you by Live On Labs. If you are someone who is constantly stressed, feeling depleted, and exhausted, I have some exciting news. My friends at Live On Labs have an incredible deal I can offer you. When you buy any product at full price, you get a free carton of their highly popular B complex product, which I take every day. Taking a B complex supplement can also help support things like a healthy metabolism, increased energy, blood sugar balance, and learning. Vitamin B supplements can help replenish nutrients depleted from stress. Live On Labs puts years of research into each product, which is why I stand behind them. Using liposome encapsulation technology, these products promote elite absorption so the supplements get into your cells and give you the best benefits that you're looking for. Right now, you can get a free carton of Lipospheric B Complex Plus, which is a $56 value with any full price purchase from liveonlabs.com. This supplement has the B vitamins and minerals that you need to help turn food into sustained natural energy throughout the day. Just add B Complex Plus and any other full price supplement to your cart and enter code BOPES24 at checkout to get this amazing deal. Now back to the show.
Yeah, and this is the question right here. And this is actually why my approach has evolved so much. I mean, if you could let me go back and do it all again, I would do it all so different. I was even back then, I was a zealot when it came to acceptable food lists. No diet soda. You can't have this. You can't have that. No ultra processed foods. You can't. And there was a lot more. It was a lot more rigid and it was a lot more strict. And what has continued to drive me in my evolution as a trainer is all the individuals that I have worked with who have gained the weight back. And some have and some haven't, but a lot have gained the weight back. I've been doing this for 25 years, right? And so like I've been right there with them and the bonds that I've created with my people. And if, I can get them across the finish line and if they start to gain the weight back, what did I do wrong? How could I have improved my message? What did I not equip them with for the journey ahead? Where could we have changed this? Because I truly believe there's an answer. I believe that there is, and it's a little bit different for everybody because, again, there's no one size fits all, but there is a code that can kind of unlock everybody's potential to lose the weight and then to keep it off. And so in order to get there, I've explored a lot of different things but that's always been the driving force behind everything that I do is when I have a friend, because I can genuinely call them friends. One of my friends has gained the weight back or starts to gain the weight back. Not gained all of it, but just when they start to gain the weight back and they're struggling and they're that negative mindset is starting to kick back in and the self-doubt and they start to withdraw and all these different things start to happen. And like that hurts. And so if I could, what works now, if someone's trying to lose 30 pounds or 300 pounds, right before we even started this podcast, I told you I've really gotten into cooking in the kitchen. And this has been, I've always been into meal prep and everything. I've been doing this for 20 something years. And just whipping up just different concoctions. But I really dove in probably for the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm focusing on making comfort foods but making them high protein and low sugar, like just making them delicious. And reason being, and it's not that it just makes me feel good. No, it's part of my approach for myself because I love to eat food. And so like I wanted to really dive into making, ice creams and puddings and macaroni and pizzas and all these different things. Like, what if I can make them high in protein and low in sugar and reduce the calorie intake? Because I truly believe that flavor changes behavior. And this is where I went wrong. I was wrong for years when it came to my approach for training people because I took food away and there was deprivation and there was restriction. Now, obviously, it was all well within acceptable boundaries in the medical realm. I mean, I stayed within my lanes, and there was never any severe calorie restriction or anything like that. But even when they're eating, 1,500 calories of real whole foods, is now on paper, does that look good? Yes. And do a lot of people give me the thumbs up saying, yeah, you're doing it right. That's right. All natural foods. Fantastic. No preservatives, nothing ultra processed. It's like, yeah, that's great. But guess what? When that process is over, because they've had all those foods taken away from them for a long time, they got results and then they rebounded right back because the moment they could have banana cream pie again, guess what? The moment they could have some Oreo cookies or whatever it is, it's like, man, they missed those foods because food was it was safety for them for years. It relieved the pain and the struggles, the mental and emotional struggles. And granted, while we could do all the mental work with our psychologists to try to get to the bottom of that, still, you take those foods away for a long period of time. When people start to eat them again, it can be a really slippery slope. And it proves to be that over and over again. So that's why my approach is now I just love to be able to teach people, oh, you like banana cream pie? Let me show you how to make one. And by the way, you don't have to eat a slice. You can eat half the freaking pie. And it's the same amount of calories in half that pie as there is in a slice over here. Oh, you like pizza? Let me show you how to make a pizza. And guess what? You can eat the whole thing. And it's the same amount of calories as two slices. So it's like you give them the experience. It's not just the food they want, it's the experience. And so that's where like I'm really big on that. And then obviously when it comes to the calorie restriction, this has always been my thing. Even 15, 20 years ago, even when I was doing my show, you always start them high and you step them down. We call it playing poker with the body. You never just start, a guy out at 1,800 calories or a female out at 1,200 calories. You've got no place to go from there because there's going to be metabolic adaptation. There's going to be a drop in metabolic rate. We know this. We know BMR is going to go down and we know there's going to be loss of muscle. And so we absolutely resistance train. You have to maintain that muscle, but we also absolutely start with calories as high as possible. I'll sometimes start my guys at 3,000 calories now, sometimes 3,200 calories. And it gives us room to then, when they start to plateau, drop them down to 3,000. They slow it down again, drop them to 2,800. I'll start my girls at 2,400, 2,500 calories, depending on where they're at. Some of them might start at 1,800. But it gives us room to step them down as they go through metabolic adaptation. And then we counter that with, yes, we can step down calories, but then we also increase NEAT. It's all about steps these days. I've actually backed off cardio altogether. So when people are going through a transformation with me, it's not the cardio is bad. I love it. It's freaking amazing. But I say, please hold that card until you get across the finish line. And if you like doing cardio, then let's ramp it back up when you're in maintenance. I'm all for it. But if you're going to go through weight loss, I think the best thing I want to try to do is create a controlled environment that still gives them flexibility to play around in that environment that works best for them. So it's like delicious food, resistance training, those are mandatory, and steps. And we offset everything simply by increasing their steps. I'm huge. I mean, I did not understand the importance of sleep for years until maybe about 4 years ago is when I actually started realizing how incredible it is for the journey of transformation. All the other pillars of wellness, stress management. I let the psychologists cover all that stuff before. And now once I really started diving in, man, you start to realize how powerful a gratitude practice is and how powerful breathing is in the moments, triage for stress. I mean, like I could go on and on about the evolution of my style and what I found works now for people, again, whether they're trying to lose 30 pounds or 300 pounds.
And I think the problem is, I speak from experience as a trainer and as somebody who's lost a bunch of weight, is when you have a bunch of weight to lose, if you're somebody who wants to drop 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds, 70 pounds, 100 pounds, like you're in that spot where you feel like crap about yourself and you need to see some wins. And so, I think the mindset of like, okay, how can I get somebody to lose as much as weight as possible in as short amount of time as possible? I think that approach, I see the logic in it because you want to get the client results quick so that they can stay motivated because we know that results drive motivation, right? But obviously there's health, risks that come with that. So how have you been able to blend those two where you're getting these people pretty quick results so that they can see progress, but you're also helping them stay realistic and playing the long game?
You just said the magic word, realistic. So I think that in order to best, not to battle that mentality, but to educate that mentality, um, it all starts with setting realistic expectations on day one of the journey and let them know. And here's the best part: you're going to get good, really big results in the first 2 weeks. And you've seen it again. You've been through the journey, and as a trainer, you know that you can deliver some really good results in the first 2 weeks because there's usually going to be a pretty significant drop in water weight the moment you start making some changes. And so, like, this is again where people get excited, but then really setting realistic expectations. So the expectation I give all my peeps is that we never expect to lose more than 1% of your body weight a week. And by the way, because, and I tell them this in advance, every little bit you go up above 1%, the chance of that weight being coming from your muscle greatly increases. And so this is why 1% is the cap. If you stay between 0.5 and 1%, and you guys can do the math yourself, you stay between 0.5 and 1%, that's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot for weight loss where you are maintaining your muscle and you're losing the fat, but we're going to keep that metabolic engine for the long run. And so that's, and then I also come in saying, look, guys, I've been on the other side of this also. Obviously they saw the show, they saw people losing, 80 pounds in 3 months, and stuff like that. And I was like, I did it the wrong way. The deficit was way too big. Can you imagine how much of that was muscle in those 3 months? Probably a good chunk of it. Oh, and guess what? We did scans, and yeah, they lost some muscle. And it was like, but at that time, this is 2011, 2012, and it was like, okay, well, yeah, we're resistance training, but the deficit was just too big. And even at that, even though the deficit was, I had the guys eating at that time 2,200, 2,400, sometimes 2,500 calories. Some of the girls are 1,800, 1,700 calories, but still they were moving a lot. And I said I would do it totally different now. I learned, like, let's not repeat those mistakes. Let's do it right. And so, like, again, it's just setting realistic expectations right off the bat. But I'm with you. Like, and I do have a lot of individuals who are coming in and they want to lose weight fast. They want those really quick results. And so the best thing I can do is communicate authentically with them and from the heart, and hope they feel the sincerity and the fact that, like, our job is to do no harm, right? That they're coming to us to help them, right? Not to hurt them and not to set them up for failure. So I just continue to reiterate that and let them know that if they're going to do this right, it's going to take longer than expected. And then we just take it from there.
I think having a coach is so important. And I think, helping people understand that most people have their best interest at heart. And I think that was another problem I saw with the documentary was that people will watch that and they'll say, see, I told you. Like, people aren't going to like me if I'm this overweight. I told you. People are going to yell at me if I'm in the gym. I told you I'm not welcome here unless I do this. And I just think it created a really bad image for the fitness industry, and I think that it goes back to my point of, like, not preying on the vulnerability of others. I mean, you see this in the weight loss space, you see this in the addiction space, you see this in the bodybuilding space where people are, like, prescribing people drugs and being like, hey, like, take these drugs if you want to see results. And it's like, it's so wrong to me, and I think there's some major red flags that exist with coaches. If your coach is trying to prescribe you, drugs or steroids, like, off the bat, like, major red flag. If they're trying to put you on an extreme diet, major red flag. If they, shame you into exercise, major red flag. Like, so, like, what do you think people should look for in a coach or a trainer if they're kind of stuck, and not knowing where to look right now?
It's a good question. I mean, Without, I would say right off the bat, obviously look for someone who's credentialed. I think it's important that they actually have like a decent background, and not just a bunch of, splashy Instagram posts. The fact that they actually have some education behind it, it just it's a good place to start. But I think it's also very similar to, I don't know how familiar you are with therapy and counseling, but it's really important, if you're going to find a good therapist, that you have rapport with this individual. You don't just hire the first therapist that you talk to. You speak with them. You understand maybe some of their life experience, where they've been, and you try you it's I wish there was a template to say, hey, this is how you're going to match with a good trainer. Maybe there's an algorithm out there somewhere. I don't know, but but it's one of those things where it's like, it's important that you don't just hire the first trainer right off the bat. You speak with them, and you need to have a connection, because there's a relationship that you're going to develop with this individual as their client, and then of course you're looking to them to lead you, and so look for authenticity, um, look for compassion, and look for empathy, if that's what resonates with you. And some people, they do respond better with a little bit more, I'm not going to say, like a boot camp style, but some people do, they like more of a David Goggins kind of personality, and so, hey, if that's your thing, but you spend some time with it, like you interview your trainer. You're literally interviewing them for a job. And so and don't hire the first one. You can always come back to them, but speak with a handful of them. Again, make sure they're credentialed, make sure that there's rapport and there's trust, that they have experience, that they actually have, and they can even, unless, I know that there are plenty that are out there just trying to get off the ground, but I would look for that they've produced results from their clients, but also ask if you can talk to the clients and what their experience was like, and so you can determine if it could be a really good fit for the relationship, because it is a relationship. And if it's done really well, you could develop, you could make a really good friend of the process, and it could just be it could be a beautiful experience all around for both sides. So, but I think empathy and compassion, it just is in my world, and that's my style. I think those are huge, especially speaking to the people that I like to transform. You know,
Yeah, and I'm I love David Goggins, and I like, he's very motivational, and I admire the heck out of what he's done. But people, he may not be for everyone, right? And I think that, I think there's a difference between him and like the trainers. Like, he's not being hired by people to transform. It's just his mentality. He's getting up there on on social media trying to motivate people to like get off your butt and go do something, because he's out there doing his thing. And I know some people don't like him. I mean, I happen to be a big fan of him. However, when you're dealing with somebody who's very vulnerable, I think the conversation changes a lot. And I think accountability is important. I think you need to hold your clients accountable. You can't have them be like, yeah, I'm just going to skip the gym today. And you're like, oh, don't worry, like I won't charge you, and then it's like, that happens enough, they kind of lose respect for you as their coach. Cause like, oh, I can just walk all over this person. Like, and then they don't end up changing their life. Right. So in your experience as a longtime coach, dealing with a lot of different personalities and people, like what do you think is the best way for people to kind of be held accountable while also showing compassion for them on their journey?
I love that you just went here. And this is actually how I build the foundation of everything that I do. And in fact, it was, even if you go back to my show from season 2 on, this became the foundation for everything that we do. And it's all built in integrity. Transformation, like you might see someone, lose 150 pounds in a year. That's nice. But here's the thing, what you don't see, as far as anyone who I've worked with along the way, is the fact that they know something that they didn't know that before, and that their ability to change is directly linked to their ability to keep their word to themselves. And so, and when someone loses 150 pounds, like you see the people at the end of my show, they're out there on stage and their chest is out and their chin is high. I know everyone on TV they're looking at the number, but this is the secret sauce, is that the individual who's out there on stage didn't care so much about the number. The number was good. The number kept everything going, but they cared about the fact that they kept every word to themselves. And that's my process of transformation. My app is called Kept Promises because it's about keeping your promises to yourself. And so the thing is, what most people don't realize is that when they say to themselves that they're going to do something, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and I'm going to walk for 30 minutes. And then they hit the snooze button at 6 o'clock, and they snooze till 6:10. They just broke a promise to themselves. And they think, well, you know what? No harm done. No one's around. I'm just going to sweep this one under the rug. Actually, a lot of harm was done because your dignity is directly tied to your integrity. And so in order for you to get to where you want to go, it's a series of promises that you kept to yourself. And when you break a promise, far more harm is done breaking that promise than if you had never made the promise in the first place. So you think in my coaching style, literally day one is all about the power of your promises. And when I start working with most of my clients, they're in a really bad place, a super dark place, darkness, despair, no hope, and all of that. And what most of them don't realize is that all of that is tied to breaking promises to themselves. That's why they don't believe in themselves anymore. When they actually say they're going to do something and then they actually do it, that's the greatest act of self-love right there. It's making you a priority. It's making your word so powerful that you actually came through for yourself. And then you repeat that over and over and over and over again. That's when someone starts to believe in themselves. So you go, I could do it. And that's why it's so important when you're working with someone, lower the barrier. So it's like, I'm sure you've got this too. People come in, they're like, yo, Doug, I'm ready to go. I'm going to measure my water, gallon of water a day. I'm portion out all my foods, 45 minutes of cardio. And you're like, whoa. Slow down, dude. Why don't we do this? Drink an extra quart of water a day for a week. Just focus on that. And if you can keep that promise to yourself, then we can stack on top of it. And that's what we do. We call them lifestyle layers. And they're literally promises that we make. And so if someone says, okay, I'll be there at the gym tomorrow, and they don't show up, they're gambling with the most important thing in the world, and that's their dignity. That's their integrity, which is tied to their dignity. And so if they don't show up, it's your job as a coach to help them keep that commitment to them, to remind them of the power of that commitment. And so that's why when I establish that foundation and they say, oh, Chris, sorry, lots going on, can't make it today. It's not like, oh, no, that's okay, I totally get it. Well, you made a commitment to yourself. And they understand because so much foundation was established with that initial conversation. So they know the power of that. And they also know that, hey, look, sometimes promises are broken. And if they are broken, then we go through a three-step process: confess, reassess, recommit. So like we literally have an entire system built around integrity because everything's built on integrity. And that's a coach's job, is to hold them accountable to their word. And the more you can do that, the more someone keeps their word, again, the more they'll believe in themselves, to a point where it's our job as a coach to get out of their way. When they become a promise keeper is when everything changes.
So it's not about like, how bad do you want it? It's not the conversation. It's more like bringing it back to them, helping them reaffirm their own autonomy in their decision making.
1,000%, because motivation is fleeting. It will come and go. They're going to want it really bad in moments, and other times it's just like, oh, I'm just so exhausted, I just don't want it. No, you kept a promise to yourself. And so we anchor ourselves in every day with something called a power promise. And this is what I establish with all of my clients. Everyone you start the day anchored in, and you just have to establish you have to anchor in with the power promise, a single promise that you make to yourself every day, and it keeps the light of transformation on. And if everything beyond that's gravy. But yes, we always bring it back to integrity.
What are the common habits of the people that you've seen, that you've trained and coached, that have kept the weight off?
You know what? Something that's really cool. The common habits for them is, number one, that they understand. They will speak the language of integrity. They talk about it all the time because that's one thing that really sunk in for them. They understand the importance of being a promise keeper, and they're very careful about the commitments that they make. One other thing that I've seen quite often is that they become very passionate about helping other people, about guiding other people through the journey. It's very, very similar to like a rehabilitation program where you'll see someone go through the 12 steps and they become a sponsor for others, because that's part of the rehabilitation. Right. And so I've absolutely seen that a lot, especially with people that keep the weight off. A lot of them become certified coaches, and because they just want to help other people. That's, for me, that's usually like that's usually the point where I'm like, they're good. They got this now, you know, because it's like, anything can happen, and everyone has their autonomy and they can always go back to numbing, with food or whatever it might be. But the moment they really start paying it forward and helping other people is the moment it just really kind of solidifies that for them. Also, it's people who have really started to like kind of take on the identity of it all. And it's like they'll say some things like, that's just not me anymore. I'm not that person. Or, well, but I'm the kind of guy, and they will take on an identity of like, I'm a CrossFitter, I'm a tennis player, I'm a walker. That's my thing, So it's like you literally see identity based changes in them. Those are huge, and those for me as a coach, I'm like, okay, that's really cool to see, because they're literally wearing it as their identity, and they're owning it.
How does your approach change with somebody who wants to just lose 20 pounds versus like 150?
Actually, for me, it doesn't. But however, I set realistic expectations that it's going to be a lot harder for the person who wants to lose the 20 pounds. Cause I'm like, yo, this is going to be, it's not going to come off nearly as fast as your counterpart over here who wants to lose 100. They're going to be seeing some bigger numbers, cause it's a parabolic curve. And so, yeah, and whether you've experienced fast results in the past, if you want to lose 20, it's just going to take a little bit longer. There's probably going to be more diet breaks as well along the way. There's going to be we'll usually make faster changes, and when I say fast, it's like you make an adjustment, let it ride for 2, 3, 4 weeks, watch the trend. And people that have just got less weight to lose, or they've lost 100 pounds and now they're at the final 20, you usually have to be a lot more in tune to the changes, and we need to make more adjustments as they get closer. But it takes longer. That's for sure.
Let's just imagine you had a few minutes with the trainers from The Biggest Loser, and it was before the show started, but knowing what you know now about the show, what kind of advice and wisdom would you speak into them?
Knowing me, just I'd want to give them I'd want to just give them a course. Like, I'd be like, yo, guys, hey, have a seat, give me a whiteboard, and I'm going to show you. I want to show you guys how to do this the right way. Here's the catch. Based on the parameters that they were given, 3 months, competitive people, I would actually tell them, like, if I was to speak the truth, I'd tell them this format's not going to work. The format's not going to work. And now, I mean, it made a lot of money, but the format's not going to work for the people. And I don't know where they were back then. I don't know if they genuinely thought that they were going to help these people lose weight and they'd keep it off. I don't know that. But if I could be put in a room with them before the whole thing started, I would tell them basically what I told the production company and the network when they sat me down and said, can we do it in 3 months or 6 months? And I said, that format's not going to work. I can't do it. I can't realistically do it. So I would have to, if I was to be honest with them, I would tell them it can't work. Yeah, that's because you just can't. I mean, you're a trainer, and it's like, Doug, you've got 3 months to take 100 pounds, no, 150 pounds off of Louise, or you're fired. What do you do? Yeah. And it's like, or, and you could create an opportunity for a lot more people, but, no, you got 3 months every single time. It's like, I can't do it.
Yeah, it's like integrity over bank account, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a hard one because, as a trainer, you really, I mean, unless you're busy and really, in demand, you don't make that much money, like, so like I can see why it can be a draw to get on a show, right? Make a bunch of money, but you also have to think about your integrity because the show's not going to go on forever, right? And eventually you'll have to have that conversation with yourself in the mirror and ask yourself if you lived out in integrity, kind of like what you have said with, the conversations you have with your clients. It's like eventually the conversation is going to have to be had with yourself. And it's going to be a lot easier to have that conversation if you didn't make these huge bombastic moves like out of integrity. Like people, I think people, it happens all the time where people are like, hey, I'll be there at 2:00 and I'm there at 2:10, right? That kind of stuff happens. But when you're like, I know what's right as a fitness professional, and then I go and do everything opposite of that and put these people's lives at risk, that's a totally different like level of being out of integrity.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Well, Chris Powell, this has been amazing. I really appreciate you coming back on the show. Um, where can people find you now to keep up with what you're doing? I know you're cooking and doing all those things too, right?
Yeah. You can always follow me on my social channels, Real Chris Powell or chrispowell.com, and which is my website. So you just jump on there and kind of see everything that I'm cooking up, pun intended, and that I'm tracking as far as keeping promises and all that good stuff. Yeah, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks again for coming on the show and for giving your insights on such a hot topic.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate you.